And we're back. Welcome to the Ball Agenda Reveal Show, Season 2. I'm joined on my left-hand side by Mr. Chinedu Asinugo. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing very well. It's great to be back. We missed everybody, but, we have to give this to our fans one more time, run it back real quick. But good to see everyone.
And on my right-hand side, I'm joined by Mr. Mekawani. How are you doing today?
I'm great to be back. 6 seasons so far. New agendas coming, or no agendas coming, because that's not what we do.
No agendas.
But yeah,
wrong show, bro. Wrong show.
But yeah, it's great to be back. Can't wait to chop it up.
All right, so we're gonna dive right into it. Act like we didn't miss a few months, and just go into recapping the first few games of the season. So we're coming up on the second international break, and I think we've learned a few things about certain teams. And we can dive in by starting with teams that have underperformed for us so far. And I'll pass it to you, Mecca, to get us started.
I think there are different scales to this. So there are more high-profile teams and a bit maybe lower-profile teams. But I think overall, the team I would say has been the most disappointing will probably be Leicester, considering how they've started the last few seasons, and they seem to kind of always get a big run of steam, and obviously they fall away towards the end of the season. But so far this season, they haven't really been able to find the right match. There's obviously injuries at the back, and Vestergaard hasn't settled in well at all. And they just seem to be very, very inconsistent in how they want to play, how they set up. Today they played more of a 4-4-2, and they obviously lost a 2-goal lead. So I think Leicester, for me, having just 8 points in 7 games for a team like Leicester, who have invested quite a lot with likes of Sumare and Patson Daka, and to have 8 points after 7 games, I don't think anyone would have expected that at all.
Sorry about that. Chinedu, do you want to add yours in?
Yeah, I think not much to add on that, because I think Leicester has been disappointing as well. But also, I think for me, Leeds has been disappointing. I think they've come out, playing their normal style of football, and they just haven't been getting the results. And I mean, prior to recently, I would have said Arsenal as well, but they seem to be finding their feet. So not much to add on that. I think Leicester, and for me, Leeds as well, they've kind of fallen short of the mark.
I'll take it a slightly different route. And for me, it's been Barcelona, actually, because in the league, I've seen them be poor. In the Champions League, I've seen them be even worse. And they're really not adapted to losing Messi. And it shows they lack creativity in the final third. Coutinho looked like a bright spot this past weekend, but really the Memphis Depay has been probably the brightest spark, and even he has kind of come off his best form in the last couple of weeks. Defensively, they just look completely at 6s and 7s. And it looks like the writing's on the wall for Ronald Koeman, because I don't see where the improvement is going to come from. And I think he's just been lucky that they haven't been able to find someone to come in, because it's just been consistently bad this season. I don't know what you guys have thought about Barcelona.
Yeah, maybe slight prem bias on our sides, but I mean, I thought you meant Premier League. But yeah, without a doubt, Barcelona have been absolutely atrocious this year. Obviously, slight mitigating factors when you see some of the players they're playing at the moment, having Luke De Jong up top and playing with the likes of Gavi and Mingueza and that like. So again, obviously, a team might be very good in name, but Barcelona's team right now is probably even worse than Leicester's. So, I'm not even joking. Like, Leicester's best 11 could be Barcelona on any given day. So yeah, I think, yes, in name, their results is not fitting of a club of that stature, but their personnel is absolutely terrible. There are a few standouts like Pedri. Depay has been good in spurts, and he's a quality player.
Frankie
De Jong is a quality player. Ter Stegen on his day, but even now he has some sort of I don't know what's going on in his head. But obviously Piqué is past his peak, Busquets is past his peak, so it's a real struggle at the moment. And
Piqué, it seems it's past his peak.
100%, no doubt about it.
His name is Piqué.
Piqué is probably slower than Maguire at the moment.
Well, his name is Piqué. He's supposed to still be. His name is
still. Oh my goodness! Sorry. I can't remember.
Clip that.
So yeah, I think Barcelona's Milan banter era is about to start. It's gonna be
Milan
fun.
did, but Milan went through it. Like
Yeah,
said.
no, but like the way and with their finances as well, it's going to be a struggle. So I think Barcelona fans are in for a hell of a
I
ride.
don't think
Do
they'll
you
tank as
think?
bad
Actually,
as.
Chinedu, can I ask you? Do you think La Masia is producing enough quality to get them to?
See, I was just about to say that. I don't
I
think they
knew.
will
That's
tank
why I said, let me ask you.
because I've said this on another episode. I don't think they'll tank as bad as Milan, but because at the end of the day, La Masia will always kind of pull them out, right? Because you look at their young talent on the bench, coming off the bench even. You have Ricky Puig, you have Ansu Fati, who should be starting, coming off the back of a very bad injury, right? So, I mean, yes, I'm worried for them now, but I think in the next 2 years, they're back to the top. I think they have Gavi, who looks a bright spark. I just think now is kind of that transition period where they have to suffer first. They're going through playing, what's this guy's name? Geza right back, Desta's left back. Desta's always been a right back, for instance. So you're playing people out of position, but then you still have the young talent that is there.
But they're playing,
so
like Barcelona have Luke De Jong as a striker. I still can't believe
some
it.
of their recruitment.
I was going to say, you made it sound like they went to blame for their recruitment, like, oh, they have bad pieces, but they.
Oh no, of course they are. But my point is like in terms of like expectations, yes, they're definitely with their stature.
They're falling very short. Yes.
Yeah,
and I think you can cite and I don't want to make those comparisons and those parallels, but you can always cite a team like Arsenal. And I don't say United because we're not that bad yet, hopefully, right? But you can always cite a team like Arsenal that they've kind of gone to, they've taken the route of this is a painful transition period that we have to fight through, and we have to essentially recruits the right players to get us there in 2 years. They're not looking at the now. Barcelona is not trying to win a trophy this season. I mean, every team is trying, right? But they probably have acknowledged that they will not win a trophy this season. And that's echoed in the fact that Laporta actually is supporting Koeman to stay in the role. So Fab just tweeted yesterday or something that he's actually not leaving, or it looks like he's not leaving. So I think it's backing Koeman to say, hey, we trust you to get us out of this tight spot, but it won't come this season. And that's the point Barcelona is at. Araujo is playing out of his mind right now. And that's someone I never thought would be starting for Barcelona, to be honest. So I think they have a bright future is my point.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that Mecca talked about the ranges or the levels of disappointment this season. So we've just covered really, really big disappointments that where we just can't really understand. I'll throw it to the next level or the other side of the coin, which is teams that are doing okay but are still underwhelming. And my first pick for that is Manchester United.
Of course.
And I say that because one, recruitment, we heard a lot about the Rolls Royce at the back, and I really, really am getting sick and tired of him. People call central defenders Rolls Royces. The attacking reinforcements, and it just, at least the last 6 games, I think United have, one win actually in the last 6 games, and that's off of a 95th minute winner. And that's with Ronaldo, Sancho. Yes, there's injuries with Rashford being out, but Cavani, Bruno Fernandes, Pogba, a lot of players fit. So injuries can actually be the thing that's pointed at as the reason for this poor form. And I think so far with 7 games in, I haven't seen any real improvements from last season, and nothing to say that the next level, which obviously is silverware, is going to be achieved by this team this year. But I'm curious if you guys have thoughts on that, and also any other teams in that on that side of the coin of have been okay, but are still quite underwhelming based on what we expected.
Emeka can go first.
Okay, I'll try not to be like too emotional about it, because I mean yesterday was like really, really poor. Like yesterday was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I've been very much a patience and time and everything, but yeah, I mean the results haven't been too bad, and it's actually 2 wins. I mean the Villarreal, or maybe I beat West Ham as well, which was a lucky one, so maybe that's why you forgot that one. So it's actually 2 wins in 6, but for me it's just the performances. United are 3 points off the top, 1 loss. So I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, other big teams are not doing as well. But yeah, it's the performances have been terrible. We can't control the game for Toffee. Like we literally can't control the game. There's always transition. It's like watching basketball. Watching United is like watching a basketball game. It's like our end, your end, our end, at your end, and there's no for some reason we can't control a game. And they say, oh, it's because of McFred midfield. It's like, okay, no, when Pogba plays there, we can't control the game. Like, it's how we're set up. And we're set up to attack too directly. For some reason, we can't control the game. Either the fact that Bruno sometimes is playing as a second striker where he can't receive the ball. Again, that's not Bruno's fault. That's a tactical thing. So Bruno is playing too far forward. So the midfield are either going long or just kind of transitioning too quickly. So we don't have someone that can actually control the ball. Pogba is not a progressor. McTominay isn't. Fred isn't. Donny, he kind
I really
of
want to see Matic because I think that could help.
So Matic as well. Matic, he's very great at like his progressive passing. Like he can find those passes through the lines. But again, he doesn't have the legs. So there's just so many issues, and definitely been a disappointment with the signings. You can have Varane, you can have all these guys, but if there's no structure in the team, forget. I don't want to hear. I hate hearing the term like patterns of play. If you can forget that, there's just no structure. With Tuchel, you can see again just a team that is so structured, and like Gary Neville said, Liverpool, you know exactly how they play, what they want to do. City, exactly how they play, what they want to do. Chelsea, exactly how they play and what they want to do. And there is a structure. So Varane, he might be a fantastic defender, but if he's constantly being attacked, even if you saw, I don't know if you saw today how Bernardo Silva dropped Van Dijk.
Yeah, I loved it.
Like, any defender can get beat if you're constantly being attacked. Like Chelsea, you're not going to see Rudiger is not all of a sudden a
exposed one-to-one. Yeah, a lot of the time.
Rudiger is not all of a sudden a £100 million defender. Like under Lampard, he looked like Bailly, but now he looks like the best in the world, and it's not because he's all of a sudden a better defender. It's because Chelsea have the ball most of the time, and they're in control of the game, so you're not going to be attacked as much. So there's just so many things going wrong with United at the moment, and I wouldn't say they're the biggest disappointments, but like you said, on levels, like for what was expected of them, and I still think they'll be top 4 comfortably. But for what is expected of them, the performances have been terrible. The results have been very okay, but the performances have been absolutely, absolutely terrible. And watching them is just so painful. Like against Villarreal, it was just so painful to watch that every single moment.
They should have scored 4 or 5.
They're always on the back foot, and it's for a team with that caliber of players, like it's very, very underwhelming. And for me, I'm not like I said, I've not been an Ole out, all these kind of things, but. Yeah, I'm very, very, very close.
Very well said.
Nothing to add. I think I'll also add Paris Saint-Germain. Like, they haven't been poor, but for what I expected, I think they're performing on that way. I expect them to be 10 odd games into the season. Trinity, what do you want to say?
If I speak, I'm in big, big trouble. Because many people have cited, oh my gosh, go out, get Poch. We missed the Poch window, blah, blah, blah. And nobody's looking at Paris Saint-Germain and what they're doing right now and how, in reality...
I think it'll click in like a bit.
And here's my thing, right? You can't... Sorry?
I said you're 100% right on Poch. Like, he's even pre-Messi, like the way PSG have been playing, I don't think I've ever seen them lose so many games in Ligue 1 like in my life. Every other weekend they're losing, it seems, from like the outside.
And people want to talk about systems, and I know Poch, he did a fantastic job given what he had at Spurs. But at the end of the day, I feel like the same way we're affording Poch the luxury, and I'm not saying Ole in or anything like that, the same way everybody's affording Poch the luxury of saying it will click, I think also you can flip the script and say maybe afford.
Poch has had way less time.
No, but personnel wise, right? So now personnel wise, you have 3 big names in Varane, Ronaldo, and Sancho coming into your starting lineup. Walk straight into your starting lineup. We haven't seen this team with Rashford in the side. We haven't seen Sancho playing at what I believe is his strongest side, which is off the right. I don't want to see Mason Greenwood on that right wing again. But I'm saying you can't.
Don't you mean Mason Greenwood?
Don't let me speak, because if I speak, I'm in big trouble. But what I'm trying to say here is, I think, yes, you can cite systems. Certain systems could be in place to mask individual errors, but I also think that the Manchester United team is currently not at its strongest. Don't get me wrong, the team that we're playing is still very good, but it's not at its strongest in terms of, I want to see Sancho on the right, Rashford on the left, Bruno to the middle.
That wouldn't change anything.
It might, because at the end of the day, for instance, Rashford provides something very different from what Sancho does. He runs in behind.
Not even defensively. Like, he's not going to stop.
Defensively.
We can't
soak up pressure.
So yeah, sometimes you just need to, like what Chelsea do sometimes, literally Jorginho, Kante, Kovacic, they literally sometimes pass sideways for like 5 minutes just to take this thing out of the game. Like we're always like, it's so naive. Like, we're always trying to like, you know,
push
even
forward.
when they ask Solskjaer the question, like, what's your style? Like, what do you want to do? He's like, Gary Neville knows like what we're trying to do is attack with pace and match at high tempo. You can't be high tempo all the time. Even Liverpool, like they don't do that all the time. Sometimes they take this thing out of the game, and obviously they do their pressing, but like they don't always. You don't always go gung ho, like always go gung ho all the time.
But look at a team like Paris, and who does that on that team? And there's one person.
Marco Verratti,
thank you, Marco Verratti, who is one of the best at his position. And so at some point, and I've always made the debate, right? Ole 100% blame him for a lot of the performances because he doesn't send the team, or it doesn't look like he sends the team out with the system. But at the end of the day, at some point, you have to say, where's the player? Like, what responsibility or what percentage of responsibility are the players taking for just being poor? Why can't Fred make a 5-yard pass? Why can't Fred progress the ball? Why can't Fred carry the ball out of his position?
All the time.
I'm just giving an example. It's not Fred.
Like he loves.
Yeah, it's not just Fred, but there's certain instances where, and even now, Wan-Bissaka is on forward for me because I look and I say there's a bit of an imbalance of that team. If I was watching a Villa game, I forget who they are playing, but I'm watching Matty Cash, and I'm like, bro, if certain things were different on that team in terms of personnel, I think you can make the debate that they might not be as bad.
You want to spend more money.
It's not always spending money.
I'm not going to say that because, like, at this point, we're basically saying that unless it's perfect, like you need the team to be perfect.
You need 11 fantastic.
You can't like Wan-Bissaka, like the game against Everton. I thought he was fantastic. Luke Shaw is the one that has been poor this season. He's been terrible this season. Like positionally, he's been awful. Even the goal they conceded. So he ran all the way to the wrong side, left side, and even the one that Tom Davies like squared for Mina. Like so, Luke Shaw has been like he's been poor this year. Even like if you're an FPL guy, you know, like he's just been terrible. And I think even now how we're saying, okay, we spent 100 plus million. Now assisting, we can't do anything because we don't have Declan Rice. It's like you can't.
At some point, the excuses have to stop.
Yeah, you can't. Like there's no excuse this season. We've been patient, and I feel we've never really had an Ole agenda. Like I know Chinedu has been a bit more anti-Ole than I've been. Like I've been more like, okay, you know, give him time. And I've been consistent, and I'm happy I was consistent. Because I always say give every manager except Moyes. That was the only one I was like, maybe it was just the shock. That was just.
How do you feel about that now, though?
Maybe it was the shock value of it because from champion
you went from
so the pride and the shock value of it. But like I'm consistent. And how Mourinho, I was like 2 years making.
Probably want Moyes now.
No,
I wouldn't.
I won't take Moyes.
I wouldn't like take Moyes now, but like I mean, he's objectively a better manager than Solskjaer.
Yeah.
I think that's
in setting up structures. Yes.
He's just objectively better.
I think he's just a better manager than Solskjaer, I believe. I mean, tactically for sure, I think so. But
I just think it's very, and obviously Ole has had 3 years now, going on 3 years, and United, given the stature of the club, I think they're expected to perform at a certain level. But I think for me, it's looking at the likes of PSG, who also have such a stacked team, and saying it's not every time they play with a particular structure. The game against City, that's probably, and I know Emeka hates the word patterns of play, but that's probably the time I've seen PSG actually, string together 5 passes where you say, okay, they worked that out in training ground. But at the same time, there are also times where individual brilliance let them out of positions, right? So Verratti will get himself in a tough spot, and he would literally dribble his way through, break the press, and then they're out from there. So I like that we're having this conversation about Ole and about United and where they stand, but I still think the only way is up, essentially.
Okay. I before we move on, sorry, I do agree with that, and it's obviously as time goes on, I do feel that we would be a bit more balanced because generally under Solskjaer, it's never been this bad. Like I don't feel it's been this porous. Like we're generally quite good at soaking up pressure and being able to like find out
on the counter
and break. Yeah. So like right now, it just seems like we're finding our balance as a team.
We also need Sancho.
Sancho, and the way he handled the signings as well. And so there are a lot of things we can kind of go into. But I feel there's definitely been a bit of an underperforming nature of the way United have started the season based on the fixtures they've played, and with the fixtures coming up, like I think it could be an ugly month or 2 if they don't settle right.
Now let's talk about
this international break is huge. This international break is huge. Now we're going to switch gears to overperforming teams. and we can do it in the same the same two buckets. Teams are like really, really just objectively overperforming, and then teams are also just doing better than we thought they would, given the resources that they have. And I'll start with teams that are just really overperforming, and I'll kick it to you, Micah, to go first.
No, you guys, Chineke can go first. I was thinking I want to be outside Prem because I was going to go for Brentford or Brighton, but I want to.
Yeah, I was gonna go straight Prem, and those two actually, not either. I'm going to choose both of those two, Brighton and Brentford. I think those are two teams that, I mean, like Brighton, they've always stuck to their style of play, and they've always been a bit more attacking, and now they're getting results, and so I think they look very, very well placed to, hopefully top half of the table finish. And Brentford just coming into Prem, that's never easy. Only Leeds, I think, has taken the league by storm like this in recent memory. So I'm really, really especially the win they got today. Last minute winner we saw. So I'm really, really, really excited to see how their season pans out. But I think Brentford and Brighton are the two that stand out to me.
Okay.
So same for you guys. I think for me, I go with
Napoli. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Napoli. So I don't know if that's what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
7 games, 7 wins. Sorry ball. Not sorry ball. That's the wrong one. Yeah, Spalletti ball. And yeah, I was not expecting Napoli to be top of the table after 7 games, but I guess this is the time where if we're going to see a different team at the top of the table, we would, with all the big teams going through some sort of transition period. So I've definitely been really pleased with what I've seen I've actually been pleased with what I've seen just in Serie A games this season. Like, I think I'm actually going to follow that a lot more this season, just because it looks like, no. I mean, that's one bit, but also the top 4 is fully open, and the race for the title is also fully open.
Yeah. I'd agree with you, Napoli as well. And like I always tell you, like Serie A for me is my second favorite league. So even like in Europa as well, watching Osimhen and Insigne tear it up has been really good to see. And Spalletti, after his legendary Roma, like the way his Roma teams used to play as well. It's great to see. It's great to see how he's performing at Napoli and rebuilding his stock in Italian football. And
they really
Napoli,
just recycle coaches and
it's crazy. It's crazy how they do it.
Yeah.
But 7 games, 7 wins, and until their shock defeat in the Europa, they've been fantastic. And Osimhen has been fantastic. So
fantastic. He's been great.
And also Brentford for me. I just watched them again today against West Ham. And
I don't know how they won that game.
No fear.
No, but the first half they were fantastic. First half they were very, very good on the break. And Tony and Mbeumo, how do you pronounce his name? Yeah. They ripped like Zuma. They ripped Zuma to shreds. Second half, yes, obviously they held on for a bit. But yeah, now for a newly promoted team to lose 1 game in first 7 and to get points off Liverpool, obviously Arsenal at that point was light work, but but no, credit to them, and to see how Thomas Frank has set that team up. I really enjoy watching them play.
Yeah, Thomas, that's probably one of the deep dive episodes I might have. But Thomas Frank is a serious manager, and they play this pragmatic style that's very direct, and they really just make teams uncomfortable. Like the partnership that they have with Tony and Mbeumo up front caused serious problems for Liverpool. Arsenal were no match, like you said, and they're building a bit of a fortress at their home stadium, very close to the ground. And I think that they'll comfortably be mid-table, but maybe even potential for one of those Daesh or Nuno seasons where we just see like a shock high finish. They can always peter out later in the season, but based off what I've seen so far, and it doesn't necessarily seem like they have that much squad depth, so that might come into play. But based on what I've seen so far, I'm very, very pleased.
And just to add one team outside of Prem that watching them have impressed me this season has been Ajax as well. I mean they lost the game today apparently in the Eredivisie, but I think they've played really, really well. Sebastian Haller obviously finding his feet again.
He's back.
Top player. And I think just watching them play, I think when you talk about systems, right? You talk about Ajax ball, and watching them play is just a joy sometimes. So just wanted to highlight Ajax as well.
and I have two that are in the giving me more than I would have expected. Three actually. One's Roma for obvious reasons. They're really, really poor, at least towards the end of last season. And I'm seeing a lot of good stuff from Tammy Abraham. Pellegrini is playing better than I've ever known him to play in my life. And they still have players like Spinazzola to come back. Zaniolo was out for a little bit. They're still figuring out their starting level, but they've been good in Serie A. I'm not really paying too much attention to the Conference League, but in Serie A, they've been good. And it's just been interesting to watch them actually do better than last season. And then I also have Crystal Palace in there because no one gave them a shot at the start of the season. And I think Conor Gallagher has really impressed me.
He's been great.
Edouard came and offers them a little bit of something different. And I feel like when they have the Ulysses and Edwards and Zaha and Eze and Gallagher all on the pitch at the same time, like Palace will really play some really sumptuous stuff. And I think they're laying the foundations for that right now. And I've been impressed so far with what Vieira has been able to do because he had a pretty tough start to the season. And the last team that I had in my also before I jump in, do you guys have any other like that have been okay so far?
I think Everton. They've been. I think because they spent maybe like 500k or like 1 mil on Demarai Gray. And I think they got run off for maybe like 3 or like 600k or something crazy like that. So Benitez does what Benitez does. You can't expect too much with the team they have, I feel, and the injuries they have, rather, I should say. But I think they've done quite well. I think they're 4th or 5th. They won 4 games.
Decore in that advanced position. Andres Townsend playing out of his mind.
Yeah, 2 seasons.
Gray was shipped out of the country, and he's back, and he looks really good. Like he caused United
something to prove.
And playing in behind the striker as well. Like for Demarai Gray to be playing as,
and they play without
Richarlison, without DCL.
Yeah, that's what I said with the injuries. Yeah, with the injuries they have without DCL and Richarlison, Seamus Coleman has been out as well. So I think credit to Benitez. One thing you know about Benitez, he knows how to be a team. So credit to them.
My last team that I had in there was actually Wolves. And I've been so impressed with Wolves this season. They started off the season finding it difficult to score. Jimenez didn't really quite find his feet yet. But if you watch every game, Lager ball is definitely in full session. I haven't watched a game where they haven't dominated the opposition and played them off the park. They lost to Spurs. They were by far the better team. They lost to Man United, by far the better team. Every single game, he's completely changed the identity from the sitting back that Nuno used to play counter-attacking direct football to this possession-based style. And players like Trincao, Traore with that something different, Neves in the middle of the park. They now basically control every single game. Like they probably have the opposite problem that United have. They can't even score and kill games, but they're in control every single time. And I think that has been probably the clearest imprint of his style that I've seen this season. And so quickly, like right from game 1, game 2, I was like, okay, this is definitely someone else's team. And I've been really impressed with how now they're starting to turn that into results. Their new striker, Hwang Hee-chan, is finding his feet. Jimenez scored the goal, and now they're starting to build a partnership. So I'm actually very excited for what Wolves do this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, they, like you said, especially the United game, they played United off the park, and it's just like structured possession football, but like they can be direct at times with Trincao and especially Traore running at defenders. And now like Hwang is a quick off the ball, kind of versatile kind of striker, can play through the middle, can play right. So should add a bit more cutting edge to their play.
Awesome. And now let's go into players. We've seen the transfer window happen. We've seen some players who have been at teams, but now we have a little bit of a better sample set to look at who we've been impressed by. And I'll start with you, Chinedu, for any players that you've been impressed by this season.
CR7. No, that's the United fan of me talking, because at the end of the day, I personally don't think that he's added much to the team. except obviously his goals. That's let me not speak about that. But I've definitely been impressed
Last minute, take off your shirt, make it all about you. after dropping his stinker.
Yeah, I've definitely been impressed by Arsenal's recruitment. So Tomiyasu, especially, I think that's a position. Obviously, Bellerin leaving to Spain. I think that's a position that Arsenal could have, maybe tried to put Ainsley Maitland-Niles if he wanted to play right back at, but they went out and did good scouting, and I think their recruitment was very good, bringing in Tomiyasu, and he's been solid for them so far, going forward and defensively as well. Who else has impressed me this season? Because I think outside of Premier, I think definitely Memphis Depay. I've always been a huge fan of Memphis, and even at United, I was really, really hoping for him to succeed. But I think the pressure of, and he came out to say it as well, the pressure of of playing at such a high level, at some point, I think got to him. But I'm hugely impressed by his Barcelona move and kind of just taking the bull by the horn and being able to, come out as the main man all of a sudden. So I think going into that team, everybody was kind of like, where is he coming into play? Like, how is that going to fit? And then obviously Griezmann makes a transfer back to Atleti, and now all of a sudden Depay is the main man. So I think those are people that have really impressed me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I could go. So a couple. Prem-wise, like I mentioned, Demarai Gray for me is one. It's because especially how he was unceremoniously shipped out of England, went to, I believe, like Leverkusen, and brought back for about £1 million. And he's been one of the best players in the league this season, especially for that level, what you expect Everton to be. Scored 3 goals, adapted to a new position, and caused havoc on the break, especially how Benitez plays. So I think Demarai Gray is one, especially for value, pound for pound. But another one for me, and someone that I didn't think had much left, is Dzeko, and he's really, really impressed me this season for Inter. Scored 6 goals in 7 Serie A games. I thought Inter will lose a lot, obviously losing Lukaku, losing Antonio Conte, losing Hakimi, but they're still taking on very, 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 very well. And Simeone is doing a fantastic job, and I think Dzeko has been a very, very big part of that. He and Lautaro had a really good partnership so far this season. So I'll go Dzeko as well. I don't think the price was exorbitant either.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely have liked Osimhen this season. I definitely have to say, I've been really impressed with his output, and also what he's been doing for
this season.
But he was just.
We're talking just new signings.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going into people that this season have like kicked off, and I felt.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying new signings. That's kind of new signings.
Okay,
because Osimhen was just injured last season for most.
Yeah. No, that's why it's like something like, okay, now he's back. Like
now he's the guy. Yeah.
Well, if I do signings, I definitely say Hwang has looked really, really good. And I've been very, very impressed with what he's brought to Wolves. And I think the big struggle last season for Nuno was really adapting to losing Jota and his goals and what he provided in terms of just attacking threat. And yeah, Hwang is pacey. He's added goals to it, and he's building a partnership with and that's what three goals in 4 games. So he's adapted very nicely to the Premier League, and I've been really, really impressed. Tammy Abraham at Roma, I think, has been very good. Huge. I think a lot of people didn't really expect him to do that well, or really think that he was a really good striker. So it was definitely a gamble from Roma to bring him in. New exactly for that price tag, new league, new style of play, completely new team. And I think he's settled in well. I've seen some things in his link-up play and hold-up play that I didn't know he had. That are definitely improvements from the training ground, and he scored goals. And I think that's the most important thing for just settling in nicely. So I think I've been really impressed with him there as well.
I mean, conversely, so what do you guys think about Lukaku signing there? Because I personally have been very impressed with him, because I thought that was not a position that Chelsea needed to strengthen in per se. But
really,
at the time they bought him, because they had Giroud in their ranks, they had Tammy as well. But what do you guys think about Lukaku signing then? I mean, it's not like a pound-to-pound, great signing in terms of the money that was spent, but what do you think?
I think he is, because I think when you're going to understand the importance of Lukaku isn't now. And it is definitely
even now I see it though.
he started well, which is great. But I think the problems were showing later in the season when Chelsea actually needed goals, when like the games were getting tougher, teams were starting to be a little more pragmatic because now they're looking to secure a place in the top whatever or stay up, and they're a lot harder to break down and chances matter a lot more. I think that was when winners misses were becoming a bit too too difficult for Chelsea in terms of score lines. And I think that's when Lukaku is really going to show his worth. But so far, he started well, and he's doing a lot of the things that he did at Inter. His link-up play is severely improved. He's bullying defenders. He's bringing other players into play. And I didn't necessarily think he would be a replacement for Werner. I think I still want to see Werner on the pitch because Werner's creativity is very, very underrated. What he does from an assist standpoint, what his runs do for other players, the Mounts and Havertz in terms of opening space. So seeing them on the field, not in the 3-5-2 like what he tried to do against City, because then there's just no connection between those two guys and the midfield. But perhaps Werner off of the left side, supporting, I think could be a very, very fruitful partnership. And Werner has now opened his account for the season. So I'm excited for what Chelsea have done when attacking. In an attacking perspective. And I think Lukaku has been a great signing, but I think the best is still yet to come, crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think the best is yet to come because maybe I've not been, I think obviously there's a glaring gap for him there to come in as a main number 9, a goal scorer. I've not been as impressed. Like I feel he's definitely an improvement and he scored his goals and he's better. His hold up play, like you said, is better. But I'm still seeing those same flaws I used to see at United where, sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear me. It says my
yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can still see some of those flaws that I used to see when I see him in the big games, when he's pressed really high, and like how Van Dijk was super tight to him at Anfield against City, where City pressed so high. And except you can obviously get that against it, you're always going to get that 1 or 2 counterattacks where he could be dangerous. But I still see those weaknesses against those big teams where he doesn't have that space. And there are times where the play is broken up too much and he has that mistouch there. His hold up play isn't quite there, or he's on the break and he has like a short, like his pass is short to like his strike partner. So I'm still seeing those flaws that I still don't believe should be there for a £100 million striker. He will get his goals. He will get his 20 goals. But for me, it's in that Champions League, in like the later rounds, if the game is tight, like is he that guy that you can trust? Like it'll be very interesting to see if he's that guy now, because again, his Champions League record isn't the best, and it'll be good to see if he's up to that level, because I still see those weaknesses in the big games where I feel like he's not technically still as assured as he should be, even though he's improved drastically. But so far so good, and the best is yet to come. But you made some great points on Werner. I do feel like if Tuchel, like I think the next step for Chelsea now Tuchel has stabilized the team, and for me they're the best. Okay, them and City are the 2 best defensive teams in the country, and now they've stabilized. I think he really needs to integrate Werner into that team. So it should be definitely Werner, Lukaku, and someone else, because if like his preference is normally Mount and Havertz and Lukaku, and look at that, if you have that team with the way they're set up, 3 at the back, Jorginho, Kante, like. There are not enough goals in that team at all. You can win a cup that way. You can win the Champions League that way because you can defend well, nick a goal, 2 goals. But if you want to win the league, you need more goals than that. And if you could get Werner making those runs in behind, it also makes Lukaku's life easier, because Mount and Havertz are always going to cut in to try and feed the ball to Lukaku. But if you have Werner there, I think it will make Lukaku's life a lot easier. So I think something Tuchel should definitely look into, because a team with Mount and Havertz and Jorginho, Kante, I don't like. None of those guys can.
It's called haram.
Yeah, none of those guys. It's so defensive. And when I saw, before I move on, when I saw the team sheet against City, I actually laughed out loud how ugly and defensive that team was, and I was so happy that City won. I'm a United fan. I was so happy City won, because how do you go into a game like that and it just literally at home? At home, how some people like to, like in maybe like in FIFA, you don't have like 2 big guys and you just like I'm so defenders. Oh my god, it was so bad. Jorginho, Kante, and Kovacic, then wing backs, then 3 at the back. It's like, come on. So Tuchel really needs to. That's the next step of their progression, I think, to win the league. they need to definitely have a bit more attacking impetus to their play.
And I agree with that in terms of have that second striker running off of Lukaku. Like I think in their last game against they played Sutton. That's basically what happened. And I think Werner, missed the chance because it was a fantastic save, but Lukaku held up the play and fed Werner in with those runs in behind. So I think definitely they would achieve more with having those two up top.
Can I just add one more thing on Chelsea? And so Werner, if they could play, so not Werner as a 2, like you said, against City, I don't think that worked well. But I think Werner wide, so like wide left. And it's not necessarily like proper wingers.
More like inside forward.
Yeah, exactly. So Werner there, then you can have one other person because their strengths also are their wing backs. So when you have the 3 attackers, then you have 2 wing backs, like 2 wing backs bombing forward. So that means you're basically attacking with a 5. So when Chelsea do that, it's literally like 3 centre backs, 3-2-5, like up from, because you have the 3 attackers. So you have Werner, Lukaku, and let's say Mount or Havertz. Then you have Alonso. Then you have Reece James or Aspi. So it's 5. But when you say 2, it's a bit more static because it's the 2. Then you have the wing backs. So they're not attacking more as a 4 because you put the wing backs. So it gives them a bit less of an attacking threat. But when you have those 3 that can link the play and they come inwards, but they can also go in behind with Werner and Lukaku. Then you have Alonso, who sometimes like he has the instincts of Van Nistelrooy. You see him like in the center of the pitch, center of the box. Like I don't know how he does it. So when they attack with a 3, it's pretty much a 5 because of the wing backs. But with a 2, it's a 4. So I think they definitely should stick with the 3-4-3.
And it's funny because Chelsea have you remember the people like the Livramentos and the Gallagher's that have gone out on loan or been sold. And they still have people like Loftus-Cheek and Barkley coming off the bench and playing the best games of their lives right now. I really think Chelsea are, from a squad depth perspective, in a really, really good place.
That's another shot.
They always.
Livramento has been fantastic.
He's been great.
Fantastic.
That's true. Turn out to underwhelming signing of the season. I'll start with you, Chinedu.
Jadon Sancho. And I'm not one that's going to be, and I don't want it to become a United segment. I'm not one that's hung up on price tags or anything like that. And I think he still has like a lot of room to grow. But I just think looking at someone like Grealish, who obviously has played in Prem for a number of years, he's coming to a City team that's stacked with players, and he's still been able to say, I pick the ball up, run at defender sometimes, take on a shot. I've not seen that from Sancho. And for all the hype that was made about Sancho coming to United, and also for all the hype from Sancho himself tweeting scary hours, when we signed Ronaldo, I just think it's been very underwhelming. As I didn't expect Sancho to come in and hit the ground running in terms of bagging 2 goals every game, but at the same time I want to see more of why we signed him, take on players, feeding the pass, and he's just not done enough of that. He's kind of just tame. So I think for me, that's been the most underwhelming signing. And Saul, but I don't want to say Saul because he's not, in terms of game time, he's not had that much game time. And also he wasn't brought in to be.
Why is that?
Because you look at what he was brought in to be. What Sancho was brought in to be was to be a difference maker. Saul was not. Saul was brought in more for squad depth, and he's on loan anyway.
Yeah, like that's $100 million signing.
Versus a loan player. So. Yeah.
I disagree on Sancho. Definitely. First of all, based on how he's being coached, how he's being used, you compare him to Grealish. Grealish hasn't been that good either, but he just played all the time. Like he's literally played all the time, and he's given a chance to.
Grealish has been decent in Prem.
No, he hasn't been that good.
I think he's just been okay too.
He's just been okay, and he actually cost £100 million.
Yeah.
And especially for what City needed, I don't think he's been the disappointment of the season. But if you compare it to Sancho, I just feel the only difference is one has been used all the time and is playing in a better team and being better coach. I think Sancho he hasn't been great, but he's not like, I don't know if you saw against Everton again. When he came on, he played really well. But there are times where I just saw like, if he was in Dortmund, he had 2 guys on him, but there was no fullback like underlapping. Like you should know who you're signing. You're not going to sign Sancho thinking he's a guy that's going to beat 4 guys, run with like blistering speed and scoring. Like if that's what you're expecting and that's why he's a disappointment, then I disagree on that, because he's a guy that he's a combination player who went on confident. When he's very confident, like you saw against Everton, he can now start like taking on players, but he needs someone to feed off. And if that's what you sign, like Grealish is exactly the same type of player, but Grealish is better because he has guys that can link up with him and guys that are running in behind him. You saw him against PSG. He was slow. He was like he always wanted to take the ball slowly. That's exactly what Sancho was doing because there's nobody around him, and because they're not necessarily that quick. And Grealish is even slower than Sancho. So I think Sancho has been, he's been disappointing in the sense that I feel Ole has not managed the situation well. Ole has taken him out when he should have left him on for confidence. Ole has not. The team hasn't been structured in a way where Shaw is underlapping or overlapping at the right times. And he's adjusting to a new league. He's 21 years old. I don't feel he's been I won't say he's been a disappointment. I feel he definitely could have managed better. And he definitely could have entered a team that is more structured. Because even Varane has, I was going to argue that Varane has been poorer, but like I would say again, Varane is constantly being attacked and not being protected by a team who supposedly has two defensive midfielders. So the United situation, for me right now, I think is based on the manager and how he has structured the team so far this season. I wouldn't call Sancho my disappointment. I would have expected more from him, but I don't feel he's been put in a position to succeed so far. But I was really happy for what I saw against Everton because that's when I finally saw like, okay, like he just needs that confidence and he just needs
confidence, and players around him that are on the same wavelength.
Not taking off after 60 minutes or not playing Pogba on the left wing when you're on the bench. Like how would he feel about that? You're both for £73 million and you're playing Pogba left wing, then you're still playing McFred. So I just think it's just been a bit of a like the manager hasn't handled it well enough. And but I definitely saw glimpses against Everton. But I don't know. Like I still feel for disappointments of the season so far. For me, it's a hard one. I tried to think about it, but the players you mentioned are players that haven't actually played, and it's like again certain teams. I always say certain teams like United. Like if certain things where United do, and it's not even just being a United fan, but I do feel there's a thing with United where everything is always so extreme and high profile. Like I raised to you Konate, right? Mm-hmm. If we signed Konate, right? Let's say we didn't sign Varane, we signed Konate, and it was Lindelof and Maguire that were still there. And let's say Ole started with and Lindelof Maguire, to be fair, towards the end of the season, before Maguire got injured, they actually played. We actually played quite well in terms of they weren't conceding too many goals. I think we had like the third or fourth best defensive record last season. Let's say we signed Konate, a young, very, very talented, like high-profile young defender, but we left him on the bench to start the season. What would have been the talk? Because Matip and Van Dijk, again, Van Dijk is obviously the best defender in the world, but Matip is, I'll say he's probably better than Lindelof, but like he's Lindelof equivalent in terms of like that, like in terms of like the level, the second defender, basically, like he's the second defender out of the two. So if it was Konate, would he have been called a flop at United? Yes, they would have said he's a flop, right?
Essentially, what's happening to VDB?
I think exactly that. So I won't say he's a flop, but like I don't want to call anybody a flop after 7 games because I feel they're very different factors. Saul came in and had an absolute like obvious disaster class and got hooked, and he's obviously not spending any game time. He's getting played. Loftus-Cheek is playing ahead of him, stuff like that. So I think it's still early days. It's still early days now. So maybe I'm sitting on the fence, but I think it's a bit harsh to say anyone is a flop.
I'll go with that.
It's a tricky one, but I just want like our listeners to like think about what I said in terms of like Van der Beek. I think that one is there's something going on there, but like I feel like likes of Konate, like nothing. No one's saying anything. Like why isn't he getting more of a chance or getting any minutes?
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe cachet of the managers that okay, obviously Klopp has that cachet, like he can make these decisions and whatnot. But I find it slightly weird that.
There's a few managers that get let off the hook, right? If Pep did the same thing, everyone.
I guess right.
Pep was killing Mahrez for a long time. And people didn't say
you don't have to look too far.
Ake 40 million.
50
doesn't get a sniff. So yeah, I think it's still early days, but I don't know if there's an obvious.
I'm thinking outside Prem as well.
For me, okay, go. Okay, I'm thinking Ben White for £50 million. Ben White. I haven't been impressed by Ben White.
I think we're in that stage of, I don't want to say like football Twitter, but we're in that stage of social media where a lot of things are very reactionary. Yeah. Ben White went into the first game, and after the first game, people started saying, "Why would you 50 million of Great British pound on Ben White.
Yeah.
I think we don't have to be that reactionary in terms of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was an Arsenal team that was playing with what, 3 new players in their backline, or 2, at least 2, right? And so yeah, it takes time to figure things out. And now you're seeing Arsenal and they're playing much better. I would argue that Arsenal is playing better than the likes of United, right? So now you see, and Ben White is not that bad. So I think it's very unfair and very reactionary to say someone like Ben White is not having. And also look at the step up. I think right?
after how much was spent, Ben White is the weak link in Arsenal's defense, and I didn't expect that to be the case. So when I look at it from the lens of 1, what you were brought in to do, and 2, the price tag. Like for 50 million pounds, you shouldn't be the weakest defender in that.
Price tag is a very deceiving thing.
It is.
Yeah. Price tag, you can always get stuck on the price tag, but I don't think that's very fair on the player themselves, right? Didn't ask to be brought in for 50 mil. And at the end of no, that was it. I just said he didn't ask to be brought on for 50 mil, and at the end of the day, like
he has his weaknesses, but
he should still have the same. I think, and maybe it's contradicting what I'm saying with Sancho a bit, but I think maybe all the players should have that same window, whether you brought them for 50M or for 100K, right? You should have that same window of, I have 5 games to find my feet.
I think context. So it's not just about the price. So it's also about the age profile. So like I said, someone like Sancho, of course, I think you should expect more from big money signing. But I think it also gets to a point where we're almost taking the piss, and it's like super. Yeah. Like Arsenal fans, like they're very open about it. That their Sancho agenda is based on the Pepe agenda that was given. Like, so it's like it's back and forth. So obviously, no one is trying to be like serious analysis. They're obviously coming back at United fans because we give them hell on Pepe. You know, Pepe is on his third year now, but that's a different.
I think at least this is not a Pepe conversation, but I don't think it has anything to do with Pepe. And
I'm telling you,
I've absorbed Pepe.
Bro,
like Pepe. I've absorbed Pepe of any. In judging him, I think it's Arteta. The difference between how Arsenal play and how Liverpool play, you see it every day with where Salah gets the ball. Pepe is always caused to do what I call like low quality dribbles, right hugging the touchline in his half. Salah is always getting the ball with 1 man to beat, 2 men to beat, and get a shot off. That's where Pepe should be playing. And I think that's down to the system that Arteta plays, how he plays his wingers so wide, how he has Pepe right on the left, breaking pressure and doing the dribbling in his own half. And then by the time he gets into the final third, it's just so structured, and he's not allowed to actually be as effective where I think he is. Because I think he's Arsenal's probably best attacker in terms of like what they can do. Like Aubameyang can do like 2 things really well. Lacazette can do like 1 thing really well. Pepe actually has that unpredictability, has good shooting, good vision, good technical ability. He's pacey as well. I think with a different manager, Pepe wouldn't be looked at the way he is. But it's just the way it has to be. But yeah, I'm a big supporter of Pepe, and I've absorbed him of blame.
For me, ultimately, still just his decision making for me is erratic. But yeah, you might argue that he's coaching game time, so sometimes maybe he overdoes it. He tries too hard, or he takes on too many players. I think again with Pepe, you can always, anytime he's on the ball, you always think something will happen, but a lot of times it's just a bit anticlimactic. And
sounds like Bolasie to me.
I just don't think he has I just don't think his decision making and his football brain are like that level. And someone like Sancho, like I feel he has a good football brain, might not be as explosive, but I think that's something that I think they're worlds apart there. And I think Sancho, I still have your tweet bookmark, Fayans, about how Sancho is like an awful player and everything. But
is that Sancho or Rashford?
No, Sancho. You have a Sancho one. I think.
What did I say?
When he started the season last year with Dortmund really badly.
Even Haaland, even your Haaland, I still run your Haaland agenda.
I've told you guys.
I don't have any agenda. I tried to be.
Yeah, because this is
I think Sancho will be a fantastic player for Man United, but the options we have, Sancho, let's go to Man United again.
Yeah, because remember we were talking about Ben White and affording him time.
And I think Ben White, and all agendas aside, I genuinely think Ben White can be a very good player for Arsenal, but they need to protect him, because I do feel like aerially he's obviously a massive weak link, and I think he's also more of a throw at the back type of centre back.
Exactly.
Which is I guess to your point, because Tomiyasu looks very solid. Gabriel, I still have like my eyes on him. I think he's a good defender.
He's also very, very good.
He's strong, he's rash, he's quick, and he can defend.
He plays out very well.
But I do think sometimes I do think he can be had by smart strikers. But I think Ben White, if he's protected, but you should be protecting your center.
That's what I was just hearing what you're saying. I was like, okay,
I've been on set pieces because
who's been protecting us at our keeper.
Really targeted him, and I know he's going to be targeted.
Imagine saying Simeone really needs to protect Jimenez. Like, we won't see the best of Jimenez unless Godin. You should protect Godin. You can't see the best of him unless protect him.
No, but you look at setups now, and like it's like saying, yeah. I think you still have to like set him up to succeed at the end of the day, whether he's a centre back or not. You still have to set him up for success. So,
as we know,
and maybe looking at the personnel that Arsenal have, maybe a 3 at the back would work for them. To be honest, because they have Tierney as well, who
that can play on the left side.
Is a fantastic.
They won the cup, so
exactly. So I struggle to see like at first. I think starting of the season, I think
Arsenal don't have.
No, I was going to say I struggle to see how they intended to play, especially starting, I think, up top with Odegaard and ESR. Saka obviously he's very, very solid in that right wing, but Odegaard and ESR for me they did similar things. But now I think I kind of understand how they're trying to play. And usually when ESR will play, he's more of the one carrying the ball forward, and Odegaard is a bit high up the field. So I think Arteta has done a good job in figuring out his team and their strengths for the most part. And I think for them too, it's only up. Like Arsenal, what we saw at the beginning of the season, they're not going to be 10th. They're going to be 6th, maybe 7th.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Arteta, please don't feel me now.
I'd agree with
that. Move on to the last segment of the day. New segment for season 2. It's called Reading Numbers, where we bring one stat, tell you about why we chose it, and chop it up a little bit about that stat and what we think it means for whatever it is, whether it's a player, a team, or the season going forward. So I'll kick it off. My stat was prior to today, so it's changed. But in the first 6 games of the Premier League, Man City had conceded 1 goal. And I shouldn't have 2 stats, but they had also faced 6 shots on target in 6 games. And that just spoke to me about the defensive continuity that they've been able to keep since last season, even with John Stones seemingly now no longer being involved in
Pep has problems, bro.
and Laporte's doing what they initially brought him in to do. And they still have that. Now Kyle Walker's nailed down his spot. Cancelo on the right. The back four looks solid and there's not as much chopping and changing. And I think that whole Rodri in front, just the way they think about the shield in front of the defense, I think is very clear and solid, and teams are really, really struggling to break them down.
3 seconds. Who's the weakest link in Man City's defense? 3, 2, 1.
Wait, I didn't hear the question now.
3 seconds. Who is the weakest link in Man City's defense?
That's
3, 2, 1.
Probably Cancelo. Defensively, Cancelo.
Laporte.
Defensively, Cancelo. Cancelo brings a lot attacking wise.
Yeah, no, I mean not just defensive. Also, you're always going to go for the offensive fullback, but like I think you do need him as well because like the balance. So I'm not saying like who's the best defender, who's the worst defender, but I think
you're saying for the system that they play.
I think the worst player. I think the worst player is Laporte.
I mean, I would have thought.
Laporte plays those balls through the lines.
I was going to say
especially
that Pep's thing though is like right-footed centre back, right CB, left-footed centre back, LCB. So I was very surprised I was very surprised when Stones actually kicked Laporte out of the team. So now I feel like for the balance of the team, Laporte he needs to be there. At least someone in Laporte's build. It doesn't have to be Laporte, but I think he's a fantastic defender. I would go with Fayams as well, that Cancelo. Although in terms of the balance of the team and how they want to play out from the back, right, he's very well needed. But I think he's also he showed today even up against Salah is probably the weakest link. Because you can attack that.
I said Laporte got chops.
Cancelo had a fantastic game.
Defending. Yeah, Cancelo's actually
he had a fantastic
he did that thing
game
for the first goal. Yeah.
However, I think I think they have to find that balance in terms of when Cancelo gets forward and can't quite track back against the likes of Mo Salah, who covers that space. Because a lot of times for more mobile like players, right, it'd be a Kante going across from DM to meet, and then maybe Cancelo covers for Kante. But now I don't think anyone covers that space in behind where Laporte leaves. So you're going to have the better players, the better right wingers actually attacking that space and making use of it like Salah did today. So I think it's finding that balance, yeah.
Yeah, I think without question, yeah, obviously Cancelo is the worst defender out of the four, but I think I still think I liked what I saw from John Stones and Diaz, and when they went on their record run, it was John Stones and Diaz. So I still prefer that partnership. But yeah, on the ball, Laporte is obviously fantastic in building up from back, left footed, left centre back. But yeah, I think City's balance with Grealish, especially, I think Cancelo struggled a lot because Grealish he doesn't do any tracking back, and he's still really adjusting to Pep's defensive shape and like the pressing. And again, I always tell you guys, I love reading opposition fans forums to see how they see their team, because obviously we don't see it like they do. And I was on a City forum earlier today, and against PSG as well, and it's something they really complain about, which makes me see the game, like their games differently as well. And like they mentioned, like Grealish does not do any pressing at all, and it was actually interesting to see. And I guess he's still adjusting, and he's having to.
He tries to, but his press is very.
You know that kind of thing that we all play ball where it says like
you how just have to run. Yeah.
You do like you want to go and pray. You just like you make that move like so
escorting.
So half-assed that like when they move, you know, like
I missed it. Damn.
So I think he's still adjusting, but yeah, so Cancelo is in for a lot of work. But City, I think they've been very good defensively this year based off the fact that they don't have a striker, and a lot of they're playing very, very slow, Van Hales kind of football. Especially of course against Arsenal, they're getting free house at that time, but it's been quite slow and very structured. Like it's actually a bit boring at times now, like so boringly perfect. And they again, what I said about United, a lot of these defenders are not like John Stones. All of a sudden, did not become Maldini, or even Laporte is not Maldini. It's just when you're in control of the game and in control of the ball more often than not, and you're not getting attacked as much. It's your team is just a lot more compact, and your defenders look a lot better. And that's exactly what City have been all season. They haven't faced many shots, like Fayam said, 6 shots before today.
They win the ball back.
They win the ball back quickly, and when they're out of possession, they're very, very structured, very, very structured. Even though they have Rodri, imagine like having Rodri and Bernardo Silva and KDB as your 3. It's like that is not more defensive than Fred and McTominay. Like United have played Fred and McTominay. Right. It's not more defensive, but the team is better structured. And going and segue from that, like Fred and McTominay, my stat is Man United have conceded at least 1 goal every game for the last 9 home games, which is the longest run of that since 1970. And that's 2 clean sheets in 16 games. So talking about Fred and McTominay, again, you play those defensive guys, but you're still conceding goals every single game. Why is that? The team structure.
It's horrible goals as well.
Again, like I said, Rodri is a deep line playmaker. His anticipation skills are good, to be fair to him, but he's not a tackler. He's not quick. He knows how to read the game, to be fair to him. KDB and Bernardo, they run hard, to be fair to their credits, but McTominay and Fred, I'm sure they have Kenyan long distance meters, like running stats, but it's not just about running. It's about sense and about team shape. So that, again, it just goes to show the start one home goal considered at least in the last 9 home games, and 2 clean sheets in the last 16 games. You just signed one of the best defenders in the world. Harry Maguire, I think, is a very good central defender. Luke Shaw was arguably the best left back in the world last season, had a fantastic Euros. Wan-Bissaka is probably the best one-on-one. Maybe positionally he can improve, but he's one of the best one-on-one defenders in the world. And even if you say he's the weak link, no defense is perfect. Conte won the league with Alonso and Victor Moses. So it should not be, if you're going to actually now say, okay, you're going to play the 2 defensive midfielders, you should not be having such poor defensive stats. And why is that? Is that because Ronaldo he presses the least out of all the strikers in the world? Is that why? Again, I don't know. Is it because you attack too quickly, transition too quickly, and every single attack is always like a Hail Mary where you're going for it all the time, so you're always losing the ball and you're always having to go back and transition? Or because you're taking corners and you're conceding goals straight from corners because you can't hack the guy down when you need to hack the guy down. So there's so many things that they have to figure out, especially if you're going to play those types of players. You might as well play Van der Beek, Pogba, and maybe like Matic. Like, you might as well go more offensive. Maybe that will help. So if you're still playing guys like that and having terrible defensive stats like that, then there's a very, very big problem.
Yeah.
Chinedu?
Well, my start is I'm going to be pushing some Salah propaganda today. After scoring against Norwich in August, he became the first player to score on the opening day of 5 consecutive Premier League seasons. And then he also recently just became the fastest player for Liverpool to reach 100 Premier League goals, as well as the 5th fastest player in Premier League history. So a lot to take in there, but it's all about Salah. And I'm saying this because I've seen a bit of slander on the TL about Mo Salah and just not giving him enough credit where, he deserves that credit. I think over the past 5 seasons, he's maybe not all 5, but over the past 4 seasons at least, he's constantly been in the top 5 players in the world, top 2 in his position. And I think he just deserves more credit as a player, especially coming from Africa, pushing the African agenda as well. I think African players never get enough credit and they don't get the credit they deserve. And so I just want to say the Egyptian king is
Would you guys agree he's the best player in the Premier League?
Currently, yes.
Currently,
I don't think there's a debate. I actually saw something about, his first touch. And this was from a Liverpool fan as well. His first touch is off, nitpicking all these things. Just enjoy it, man. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the game.
Jorginho is the best player in Europe, so that makes him the best player in Premier League. So I don't have much more to add there.
Okay.
J5
Ballon d'Or?
It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. Guys are going to cry.
Jorginho is not even the best player in Chelsea.
How dare you? How dare you?
So,
I've been the best midfielder in Chelsea.
How dare you?
Emeka, what do you think Salah is the best player?
I think he's the best player in the league. If I was going to do my top 3, I was thinking about it the other day. My top 3 would be Salah. I think Salah and Van Dijk are in the top 3. So then the third spot is either Kane or KDB. But for me, I think Salah and Van Dijk have to be in the top 2.
And is this based on like recent performances
on ability? I think it's everything. I think Van Dijk. I think for me, Van Dijk, because it's so easy to go for the striker and like for the goals and everything. But I think in terms of impact, I think Van Dijk has to be there. Like even just when he's there, like when he wasn't there last year.
No, you're right.
I think Van Dijk has to be there, and I think Salah objectively, numbers, impact, big games, assists, everything. So I think Salah has to be there for me. So Salah and Van Dijk for me. Then third is either like Kane or I know Kane has been really poor to start the season for various reasons, and he looks a bit unfit. And I'm a bit worried about that, but maybe it's just a hangover from the transfer. But I think Kane has either Kane or KDB has to be number 3 for me.
I think Kane has earned the respect of saying he's just having
exactly. That's why no panic. No panic on that. Yeah.
Awesome. So when you analyze beautiful game, share your expert opinions or do a topical deep dive. You need to just ask yourself, Chinedu, what should they ask themselves? The season 2 of Ball Agenda Reveal Show.
Do I really? No ball. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good night.